you don't get obedience to Christ without intimacy with him.
This is where healthy masculinity then has to come in, because Jesus calls us to submit to our leaders.
This was the heartbeat of who I was.
I'll tell you, the mandate from Scripture is absolutely, God is a father to the fatherless. He sets the lonely in families. Like, he is the defender of the vulnerable. This is the God that we serve.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Patros Podcast as we embrace healthy masculinity. Today's topic is going to be a fun one to talk about, but my name's Allan, Pereira. This is Jeff Ford, and we brought Laney back, guys.
Woo!
I'm here.
Let's go.
A golf clap.
And, like, we didn't even change clothes for this one.
No.
We were so excited to do we were. No, let's be real with the people. We were so excited we had to just do it again.
Yeah.
We had to do another one while you were here, Laney. So the people had to wait a week. I'm sure they were chomping at the bit.
Just wait till they see the video after this one. And we're still in these clothes.
We're still in the clothes. Oh, man.
Let's go a whole year in the same attire.
Hey, listen, why not? You're a Florida State girl, right?
Absolutely.
Explains a lot.
That does explain a lot.
Thank you.
What would you say?
My family's all Florida State people anyways.
Mm-hmm.
You're from Miami. How's that even happen?
Huh? Well, because a lot of kids in Miami end up just going to Florida State. I don't know why. Well, UM's like 30 times more.
It's because people from Miami don't go to Miami. They just pretend to be Miami fans.
The thing is that University of Miami is a private,
school,
so it's a lot more expensive and harder to get in than FSU is.
Oh, he's dogging on your academics.
But FSU is a good school, and a lot of people end up going to TCC, right? And then they go.
I don't know. That was not my story, and I don't know. I don't know those people.
Your story was nursing school.
I am proud to have flunked out of such a prestigious university.
Yeah, because you did what you needed to do, which was.
Let's be clear. I didn't fail out of college. I failed out of the nursing program, which was, I don't know what it is today, but it was highly competitive.
Well, you're going
back
through
then.
stuff too.
I was going through some stuff.
And we're allowed to go through stuff.
Listen, there's no judgment here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would have failed out like day one.
What was your major, by the way?
I was pastoral ministries, and then I switched to business. So, same industry.
Just couldn't cut it in the Christian world. Is that what happened?
No,
not a good enough Christian.
I just thought, I was like, man, you know what? Like, I can still become a pastor, but like, we don't have to get into that.
Oh, we're into it.
All right. So I got saved out of Catholicism, and all of my family thought that the reason I was living a holy, righteous life was because I was going to become a pastor, because that's a priest or whatever. So I was so livid with the fact that it kept being tied to my career path. Therefore, I was like, you know what? I'm going to, like, you know me, like, I'm going to prove to you guys.
This is a pattern of behavior.
Yeah, it's my whole life. So I'm going to prove to you guys that my faith.
Experienced some trauma regarding
adverse
control.
childhood experiences.
Call it what you want. But I was like, I'm going to prove to you guys that this has nothing to do with my career path, and I'm just going to go into like the normal world and show you that I'm still going to love Jesus the same amount outside of pastoral ministry. And so I'd rather just live a life.
I mean, that's
acting shepherd-like outside of being a shepherd.
That's a noble decision. Also,
and I'd rather be a pastor later in life than in my 20s/30s.
It seems weird to base your entire life trajectory on trying to prove your family wrong, but I don't know.
No, but in that process is where I learned, like, so many people become pastors a little too early, and they probably should, like, go through some life. And also, with that, I learned bivocational ministry is an amazing thing. Like, to be able to tell the people in your congregation, like, hey guys, I'm not a career pastor, this is actually where God has me, is important. And so everybody has their route, and that's the journey I decided I was going to take.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it. I
don't answer to either of you, so
I
we're
never.
good.
Well, apparently you don't answer to many people based on
Jesus, bro.
I never knock a good education. I'm all about.
Yeah, get an education
being educated, because I think some pastors out there need a little bit of an education.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely
scriptures.
I believe that people that are going to be pastors shouldn't just be like, oh yeah, I'm just gifted. No, you need to go through a process.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, now that we have solidified that bunny trail.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it was good. I mean, people are getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
I love it.
So if you want, boss, if you need Allan to do something,
have him
you
do
just
something
tell
pastoral.
him. Well, no, you tell him the opposite of what you need him to do.
That's not how it works.
So that he just
Jeff knows I have so much respect for him.
Sticks it to you and does the opposite.
But Jeff, like, his love language is literally
contention,
like banter, and like going back and forth. He wants to spar.
So let's spar a little bit. Let's bring and we're really going to get to foster care and adoption, but but before we do, maybe the people can provide in the comments their opinion on this.
No,
so yesterday,
I'm always the outlier.
Yesterday,
I live outside of the box.
Yesterday,
you guys are going to disagree with me.
Well, I mean, you're just trying to set it up in your favor. Maybe someone feels sorry for you, so they'll actually agree with you. give them a like. No, Allan. I asked him if he was free to go to a thing in classic Jeff fashion.
About
an hour and a half before it started. But in
it's
classic
30 minutes away from my home.
In classic Allan fashion, he's like, "Oh yeah, I can do it."
No, I made sure I could, and then I was like, yeah,
so then he texts me specifically, "What's the attire?" So I'm like, "Oh man, that's good that he's thinking about that piece of it. Like he's thinking, gosh, I need to dress for the occasion." So I send him a picture. I hadn't been to this event. I sent him a picture of the last event. Maybe we could throw up the picture. Like
I don't want to put anybody on blast.
Saying,
you know what I'm saying?
No, it's all right. It's all right. Put him on blast.
Jeff, you can't do that.
And the picture shows what people were wearing, generally 40s, like I would say mid-30s to 50s.
Yeah. Mind you, the group is supposed to be 40s and under.
But it's not. And these people are dressed in,
great men.
They got polos on, they got jackets on, they got, button-down shirts on. Like this is
I saw jeans.
There's a lot of jeans.
A lot of jeans.
But there's a lot of mismatch.
A lot of
mismatch.
Baggy jeans.
Baggy suits.
Untailored jeans.
Yeah. And not fitted shirts. Right. Like the collared shirts were not fitted.
Right. All that is irrelevant to the actual
in my
to your generation.
In my eye, that is very
right. So you guys are both hitting on the point, which is that you are going to a function where you're dealing with a generation that is not your generation.
Yes.
Right? And so
no, if you said under 40s event,
it's supposed to be.
No,
we never talked about but we never talked about age.
No, we didn't even talk about
I just sent you the picture.
He just sent me a picture.
I just sent you the picture.
He could have said like maybe collared shirt would be good. Then I would have done it.
I wish this was the first time Jeff had done this, but it's not.
Yeah, let's talk about what happened today.
It's not.
Whoa. What are you talking about? What happened today?
Yeah. You could tell.
Yeah.
What happened?
I was invited to a podcast, not a video shoot. But I showed up, and there's a room full of cameras and bright lights in front of me.
Laney, I think what you should take from that is that I was so confident in just your natural glow that I wasn't worried about.
What about my natural glow?
I was concerned about it.
Jeff, I think, Allan, I gotta back you up here because Jeff is notorious for providing absolute minimal information. And then even when you ask clarifying questions, I have asked, Jeff, what is the attire? What do people wear to this? Oh, just, casual. Like, what does that mean? What is casual? Are we Florida casual? Are we beach casual?
And then you show
are we
up
business
and you're gonna
casual?
Be overdressed, and now you look like the stepbrothers in the interview
and then
for
you look
janitorial
like you're
service.
Trying really hard. This is a Jeff issue, I think.
Listen, there's a lot of Jeff issue in this story. I will confess that. The Allan issue is that after showing him the picture of clearly people are wearing button-downs, polos, and jackets. Yeah. Now, they may be wearing baggy jeans. I'm not saying it's the most
dress shirts too.
Baggy dress shirts, whatever. Fitted or baggy, they're still dress shirts.
And there's some guys in shorts. There's like 3 guys in shorts.
There's no guys in shorts in the picture.
3.
No.
Yeah. Because there's guys stacked. If you look,
you're telling me that you looked past
yes, I looked everything.
The people in the sport coats to the 4th row.
Yeah.
To the guy with shorts on in the back of the picture.
Hey, I assessed the situation very quickly. I didn't have to look that hard. Look. Look, I saw that bare leg.
Oh my god.
Okay, I see one bare leg.
No, hold on. There's more.
Anyway, the point is, he then sends me a picture of.
Certainly, no one cares.
Well, that guy came from a golf. He came from a golf outfit.
I could have came from.
I would have rather you showed up in a polo and some shorts.
They ask you when you walk in, where did you come from?
Jeff has a backstory for every single person that was in that picture,
except for me.
That's because I'm.
Well, his boss told him like barely an hour before.
Okay, long story short, Allan sends me a picture with him in a T-shirt. And that's all I saw was a T-shirt, and he's with a guy who's in a collared button-down. And he's dealing with clearly 50-somethings.
It was a nice...
Yeah, I'd say it's a tee.
It was a fashion shirt.
You know how many people out here like wear that like $400 T-shirts?
T-shirts, right.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be worn with dress pants.
Yeah.
If anyone's wearing a $400 T-shirt,
they're very nice.
I got all sorts of issues with them.
Very nice.
I mean, there's menswear companies making like fancy joggers. Like I've seen guys dress up with joggers before. This is Florida, America. We're talking about.
Understood.
I didn't feel that it was not appropriate for the occasion, but this is where healthy masculinity then has to come in, because Jesus calls us to submit to our leaders.
Bring it full circle.
And so Jeff's love language, and mind you, while I'm sitting there and I'm texting, me and Alexis, it was her birthday too yesterday, so we're like getting ready to go to dinner. So then
Jeff and Alexis have the same birthday.
Yes, I always forget. Why do I always forget?
Every year Alexis is like, oh, I didn't know it was Jeff. And I was like, yes, I tell you this every single year.
And every year I go, oh, I forgot.
So then she's like, why do you look so like into whatever conversation you're in? And I was like, Jeff's freaking talking about. And then she's like, Allan, he's your boss. Stop doing that. I was like, no, this is his love language.
Berating you means I love you.
And then so I'm like going back and forth, and she's just like, Allan, just stop. And then I was like, all right. And then that's why I texted you, understood. And I was like, but three times in the whole entire conversation, I said, noted, I will wear a collar shirt next time. Jeff comes back with another paragraph. I'm like, maybe we should think about. And I was
what the funny part of this is that when I was doing that, my son was like, Dad, why do you have that like grin on your face?
I told Alex, I was like, he enjoys this. And then he's like texting another guy in the chat. And he's like, what do you think? And
wait, there's somebody else in this chat? What?
And Jeff goes, why don't you weigh in? And his response is literally like, I'm not the one to ask him.
You're like bullying someone into bullying Allan? Oh my god.
Allan is not bullied. Trust me.
I can handle it. It's fine.
All right. Anyway.
My threshold for abuse is pretty high.
Gosh, how much of that is getting cut out?
Oh, it's all going to be in there. I hopefully the people can just appreciate. If you know they didn't want to hear that story, they can go right past it.
Yeah. Or if you want to vote, go ahead and
or vote. But you have to put the picture up.
No, because I understood where you were coming from the picture, because I was like, you know what, that's fair. You didn't see my whole. I mean, that's what my response was. And
I didn't see your full outfit.
My whole response was, you didn't see my whole outfit, because I literally went to Alexa. I was like, I look pretty fly. She was like, that looks good. and then I showed up and everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, I took a picture with this guy because he was my professor. I was like, small world. You were my business professor. I spoke at Raymond James with you. Blah blah blah. And then Jeff's response isn't like, oh, that is like, you wore a T-shirt.
No, he was having such a proud moment with you.
Yeah, literally.
And your first response
he told me, he was like,
critical.
Man, you just made my day. And we like hit it. Yeah.
Nope. If he had not asked what's the attire, I wouldn't have said a word.
You wouldn't have cared.
I would have said a word. It was because he asked what was the attire, and I'm like, he went with a T-shirt. Anyway.
Hey, it felt safe to him.
Let's talk about foster care.
Let's talk about what we came to talk about today,
adoption,
which is foster care and adoption. So we've titled this podcast, What Men Need to Know About Foster Care and Adoption. So we have brought back our very good friend, Laney Gibney. And for those who did not catch the last podcast, you want to go back and listen to that for sure, because Laney joined us when we talked about trauma as a licensed clinical social worker. Yep. That is her area of expertise. And so just what is trauma? How do we deal with it? How do we navigate it? What's a path forward? We talked about all those things. And she has come back because the three of us all have some interaction with what I'm just going to say foster care and adoption because I think it's just the easiest term that people understand. And so you're going to get some perspectives today, I think, that will be helpful. And understanding that world, understanding, the challenges, how, who and how and why should we be involved. But for the people who missed who you are, maybe just briefly your background, and then I'd love to know, how did you decide, hey, we should foster and adopt? Because both of you guys are, I do think, not as common in that you guys started fostering under the age of 30.
Out the gate.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
That is, I would say, rare. So talk a little bit, and Allan, I don't know that we've shared this on the podcast, so I'd love for you both even to just share about that.
Yeah. Well, my name is Laney Gibney, and I have been a licensed foster parent in Florida for almost 5 years. And I am now recently, within the past year or so, an adoptive parent. And I transitioned, well, I don't know if I'd call it a transition, but I was working in the foster care world as a social worker prior to becoming licensed as a foster parent. That was my first job out of college. I was fresh into the social work world, and I decided to get a job with the Department of Children and Families. And so I was working with children who were removed from their parents, and I was trying to help their biological parents work their court-ordered case plan to get their children back. That opened my eyes to just a world, a whole world. And I knew in those moments when I was working in that job, that was probably the hardest job of my entire life. And I knew that once I was not in that job anymore, I'm like envisioning down the road, like when I'm not doing this anymore, I need to get back into this world as a foster parent. I just felt this pull on my heart that at some point in my life, I was going to be a foster parent.
Wow.
Fast forward to meeting my husband in 2016. We got married in 2018. I don't recall, I can't really recall a specific first conversation that we had about it. It was kind of one of those things when we were dating, and when you date and you talk about your future, how many kids do you want, all that stuff that you talk about when you date, which, by the way, so glad I never have to live that world again.
The dating
my
world?
Gosh.
Well, I bet it's a whole different world these days.
It is so different. Yeah. It is so different now. Wow. But when we were having those life-forming conversations, adoption and foster care was always kind of mixed in those conversations. He was dating me when I had my job with the Department of Children and Families, so he knew that this was the heartbeat of who I was. Working with foster kids and working with families who had experienced abuse and neglect was just something that woke me up every morning. I live for it, and I can't explain it. I truly think that God places things in our hearts that are just passions and things that give us purpose, and that's what it is for me. So when we got married, we had been married, maybe a year, and we did not want to have children of our own yet. That was not something we felt we were ready for, but we were like, well, we've got 2 empty bedrooms in our house. We've got all the time in the world. What better time to bring crisis and chaos into our lives than when we're super comfortable? And I think that's a little bit counterculture thinking, not to pat myself on the back here, but it is kind of weird that we were wanting to shake things up at a point when we were comfortable.
That's what Jesus does. Yeah.
That's why I think it was just the guiding of the Holy Spirit that brought us to this place. Because I think in our human nature, we would have been like, this is so fun. We can go on whatever date nights we want. The only money we're spending is on ourselves. We can travel the world. There's just nothing uncomfortable about our lives. So we thought in that moment, this is probably a really good time to invest ourselves a little bit, to serve a little bit, because our resource tanks are full. So we have room to expend here. And so we became licensed foster parents in 2020, early 2020. Actually, March of 2020.
Wow.
COVID.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
Our home visit to like deliver our license to us was the week before the world shut down.
Oh, wow.
And at that visit, our licensing specialist told us, hey, I know you're just licensed today. Congratulations. We have 2 girls that are needing placement that we think would be perfect for you. Mm-hmm. And I looked at Matt and I thought, we literally just got our license today. And they're already telling us.
Which is so typical of the system.
Yeah. So the rest is kind of history after that. But that's the, I guess, long answer of how we got into foster care.
No, it's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, just sitting here thinking the miracle of a young couple before they have start making a family of their own or having all those fun date nights and everything else goes, no, we should invest. Yeah. Totally countercultural. And it's not a patting on the back. No. It's just sharing your story, which hopefully inspires others. Laney, how much of the, because, living in the Tampa Bay area where we're filming this, how much was the crisis here? Like, how much did that impact you?
To give a history lesson on orphan care in Tampa Bay is we don't even have time or emotional bandwidth to talk about how devastating the crisis of the child welfare system has been in the Tampa Bay area. We lead the state in like every negative statistic possible. Highest rates of removal, lowest rates of reunification, even just tragedies within the system of children continuing to be traumatized and children losing their lives because of the system. It has been such a I don't know how to, crisis is just not the right word. Crisis is not heavy or scary enough of a word to describe what has historically been happening in our area with vulnerable children. So I don't know, what was your question? How did that impact me?
Well, I was saying, do you think that impacted
you?
Play a role in versus
Beyond.
If everything was like good, but we kept hearing, I remember those. We kept hearing statistics. We kept hearing about children dying in the system of care. We kept hearing about children who were staying overnight in gas stations. And,
Well, when I was a case manager in the system, I distinctly remember, and this is not to put anyone on blast, this is not the culture of our foster parent world, it's just kind of anecdotes of foster parents I experienced. I remember experiencing foster placements where I had children that were old enough to speak to me, and they would just tell me, this is not a home. Like, this is not a home for me. I had one sweet girl who I would take to her foster placement, I would pick her up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. She would sleep in my car in the school parking lot before the school gates opened to let her in. And she would spend her afternoons with me on the days that she wasn't running away. She would spend her afternoons with me in the office watching me do paperwork. And then I couldn't take her back to her placement until after dinner time because that foster placement did not want to feed her dinner. And so I saw things like that. And I remember so vividly speaking to managers above me. And I said, this is not a foster home. This is not a family.
Yeah.
This is not... This is not restoring this child. This is a bed. You could have this in jail. You have better in jail. You get meals in jail,
and
right?
By the way, in the system of care, that's even how they refer to it. Like, how many beds?
How many beds do you have?
Can we camp on that for a second?
Yeah.
Of like, because I know that somebody hearing that right now, because I hear it all the time when I explain situations like that to people, is immediately judgment on that family, which rightfully so, but the reason that child is in that bed is because families that say or seemingly have more of a moral compass aren't making their beds available. And so these children are in that home that whoever's listening to this, that struck a little bit of a nerve or judgment, just know that, like, as you listen to that, like this is happening because good homes aren't opening.
Yeah, you know what those, when I would speak to my supervisors about it, and I would say, we got to take the license from these people. These cannot be called foster families.
Then where will the kids go?
That is exactly what they said.
You know where they go? They end up all night in a Wawa parking lot or all day for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Because there is no place, and they have wised up. These kids have been so traumatized, which go listen to our last podcast on trauma. They've been so traumatized that they're not in school, have no interest to be in school, and know from the system's sake that they can refuse to go to school. And there's not a lot that you can do.
Yeah.
You certainly can't place hands on them.
No.
There's no coercion in that regard. And what good would coercion do anyway?
Yeah.
Right? And so you're really, and they've learned, being hardened in the system, that they can just say no, and that again goes back to the trauma response of that fight, flight, or freeze.
I can at least have some sort of control.
Here's how I can control.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the therapists that we work with, she says you have to first validate, or like you have to determine the usefulness of a behavior before you can validate it.
Yeah.
So in other words, like we look at it and go, you know, that's a terrible thing to do, but why was it useful? Well, usually it was useful in a survival capacity, right? Like I survived. Like she told this story of a kid who was just lying, one of her foster kids, lying. And there's nothing worse than a kid lying, right? Because it's like, you usually know they're lying.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I know you're lying. And you'll even tell them, I know you're lying. And they're just, the pride will not allow you. And so she was kind of like, she tries to think unorthodox and really Holy Spirit led.
This is a non-typical child, treat them non-typically.
How do I, and so for every kid she'll think, oh, all right, Holy Spirit, how do I deal with this? So finally she was like, you know what, sweetie, I know you're lying. And you know what, I was thinking about it. I'm actually so glad you are lying to me. She's like, you are such a good liar. And I had to compliment you on that. And the kid was like, what just happened? Right? Yep. And they're like, you know, mind blown. Like, you're complimenting me on my lying? She's like, yes, honey, because I know that because you're such a good liar, it kept you safe and it brought you to me. And she's like, and now, like, you're safe. And so you don't have to do that anymore, but you don't know that yet. And so I'm going to say thank you for lying. Because it brought you to me, but just know that you don't have to do it anymore. You actually are in a safe spot.
Yeah.
She said within a week, she started to notice the truth starting to come out. And that's the kind of child that you're dealing with, right? It's the kind of kids that we're dealing with. And so when you deal with those kind of kids, you want them in the best, most loving environment possible. So then to place them in a place where they're like, you know,
they're just a number.
And
but
so
we don't have those people.
After... Because you became licensed after that situation of
Yeah. So after I worked for the Department of Children and Families, I then worked in the school system, providing direct counseling with students, and most of those students, you qualify. A student qualifies for counseling within the school system. Because whatever needs they have prohibit them from being able to engage in the academic environment. And I would say, I don't have the exact percentage here, but almost all of those kids had experienced trauma in their life that was preventing them from being able to engage with their studies. So it was in that environment that I was able to get licensed to be a licensed clinical social worker. I'm
gonna come to you in just a second because I want to hear you got into it as well, and this will lead into your story with you and Matt, your husband. Who was leading the charge, and then what was the response of the other person, and how long did it take for maybe the person who was lagging to catch up to the person who was leading?
If you know me, then I'm leading probably 95% of the charges in my home.
No matter what.
In my home. And that's
why we love you, Laney. That's why you're on the board. We want that kind of woman.
If there is any social justice or difficult thing or something that just makes everyone go, what are you doing? Or what are you thinking? I'm probably the one leading it.
Yeah.
But Matt is, I guess if we talk about like alpha dogs or like alpha males, female, whatever, I don't think Matt doesn't even categorize himself as an alpha male. Like he doesn't need the attention and need the room to look at him. Not at all. He's not a dominating person, but I will tell you, he'll let me know if he's not on the same page.
Yeah.
And that is an instant cue to me that I need to get on the page he's on. So in this situation, he knew that this was my passion, my heartbeat, and he took it to the Lord. Do I need to follow the calling that you're placing on my wife's life right now? And he was affirmed in a very confident yes. So that's not to say that I know I don't want to get into the minutia of who's the head of the household here and who's leading what, but I do think that there are specific passions and commands that God speaks directly to women. And then it's up to men to step into that space and say, Lord, is this a calling for our family? And to help guide in that area. And that's exactly what Matt did. And he was having conversations with me consistently about when do we want to do this? How do we want to do this? What does our time frame look like? So those were, I would say I was leading the charge just because that's my personality, right? Yeah. That's my personality. But it was not without him absolutely on the same page, because I knew this cannot be done in a divided household. This cannot be done when only one person is on the page of doing it.
Yeah. And I love his response. Like, so on the Patros podcast, and you guys both know this, for those who are tuning in maybe for the first time, you just found this randomly. We talk about healthy masculinity is really what we're trying to go after. And so there's this idea that when we are living out God's role for us, and we talked about this in past podcasts, we would definitely affirm that there are certain roles that seem to be more men have a more proclivity to do, and there seem to be roles that women have more a proclivity to do, and there seems to be a design in that from the scriptures, and that when we like mix those up, things seem to not work as well. But there are always exceptions. But what I love in the story that you said there is, because there are certain females that are strong, and I mean, and there's several examples of those in the scriptures. Like, and by strong I mean like you, like they know what they want, they've got a clear vision, and they're moving forward, and they're pushing the needle, and they're making change. I mean, you're an Enneagram 8, right?
How did you know?
Game recognized game. So you want to make a difference, etc. What did Matt do? He took it to the Lord. Like, he took it to the Lord. And so for men going like, what's my role in this? Because generally speaking, I do think the women are leading the way in this area of foster care and adoption. Take it to the Lord. Your wife brings it to you, your significant other brings it to you. Take it to the Lord and see if he doesn't reveal to you that, yes, you should get on the same page. Because I'll tell you, the mandate from Scripture is absolutely, God is a father to the fatherless. He sets the lonely in families. Like, he is the defender of the vulnerable. This is the God that we serve. I was reading earlier today, actually, there's over 400 verses in the Bible about justice, or in the Old Testament about justice. Like, God is concerned about justice. And that is not vengeance. Vengeance is the Lord's. But justice, though, is something that he gives for us to seek on behalf of who? It's almost always in connection with the vulnerable. And so I just love his response in that. That's biblical masculinity.
And when I hear it, I hear like what you said about, we can get into the topic of head of household leadership and all that, but what I hear is security, that he is secure in his masculinity. Therefore, he doesn't need to bash heads with you. Not that, every couple's going to have arguments, but like the willingness to say, you have a passion here and I'm going to value it. And I don't need to assert myself dominance. Like I can just allow that passion and then come alongside and see, where's God guiding us as a family, and to hear the passion.
And I think his comfort and his health in his biblical masculinity is also always sends a message to me to really have biblical womanhood. And that is something that I think I've struggled with a lot in my life, because I am such just a strong,
just get this done. I want this done. Yeah.
I don't care what you think. We're gonna charge the hill.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Yeah. I do struggle with authority. I do struggle with submitting to authority and what I'm told I should do. It's my poor mother and father, have bloody knees from the prayers that they have prayed over my life, because I don't like being told what to do. And prior to being married, I was that girl that was like, feminism, I'm never submitting to a man. Like, I am a strong, independent woman, just all that stuff. And I'm now married to a man who is so secure in who he is before the throne of God that in just him existing in that place allows me such a safety in respecting that and submitting to it. Yeah. And when he tells me, I bulldog a lot of ideas, and I am just gung-ho on whatever I'm passionate about. Just, I can't stop. I don't stop myself. I just go for it. And when he tells me no on something, I truly trust. Like, it subdues me.
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay.
It does.
Better listen.
And it does, and I don't feel like it has to be a fight, and I don't feel like I have to overpower his will. Yeah. And I really think that that's the beautiful balance of when you have true biblical masculinity in a family, everything else just balances itself. That's good.
We were talking about in staff the like, what does it mean to be a man? And if you look biblically, there are, honestly, like, we came up with this whole whiteboard exercise, and when you look at it, you go, gosh, God wants women to do a lot of that too. And so we were trying to delineate, what is actually distinctly for men versus women? And a couple of words that we landed on were safety and security. And you just brought those up, like, in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what do we need? What's at the bottom? Like, safety, right? And having a safe environment. Matt has created a safe environment for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Where you're able to be who God has called you to be, while at the same time knowing that he is there as the man of the house, but he doesn't need to lord it over you to, like, prove it.
Right.
And I just love how you said that, like, he's so secure in who he is.
Do y'all want to hear more of that conversation? Well, you can by becoming a Patros subscriber. You'll get exclusive member-only content. Just go to the link in the description or go to the Patros website.
Yeah, and when you become a subscriber, like, what you're telling us is that you enjoy this content and you want to hear more of it. So every dollar that you give helps us do just that.
So thank you again for listening as we just together go on this journey of embracing healthy masculinity.